All right, good afternoon. My name is Newsome, and I'm going to go over today on how to immobilize a suspected fracture. So when you come into someone who you think might be injured or have a suspected fracture, the first thing you're going to do is to prepare the casualty for splinting the fracture. So basically when you want to position him without moving the suspected fracture. So the key there is never move a suspected fracture, so you splint it as it lies. The second thing you want to do is make sure you reassure the casualty and hey, I'm here to help you, and we're going to get through this together. The next thing you want to do is start loosening any clothing that's restrictive to the limb that you are suspected of fracture, unless it's in a contaminated area, which you will not want to remove any clothing, or you don't want to pull any clothing away from the suspected fracture. So after you've positioned the casualty and reassured him, the next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to gather splinting materials. So in this case, I have a splint, something to tie the splint, and something to improvise a sling. So for today's purposes, this is all the splinting material I need. If you're out in an environment that you don't have these things available to you, you can use boards, sticks. You just want to make sure they're sturdy enough and they're long enough to go past the joints to immobilize on both sides of the leg and throughout the fractured area, a suspected fractured area. Okay, the next thing you want to do, in my case I have a padded splint already, so I won't need to pad it, but if you were using boards or sticks, you could use some kind of cloth or material, and you'll want to pad the splint. So wrap it around the board or something, so when it is connected with the skin, it won't cause further irritation. So now that you've padded the splints, okay, you're going to check for blood circulation. Okay, so for lighter skin people, you can look at the colorization of the skin to see if it's discolored or a lighter color or more pale. In darker skinned people, you could check the capillary refill, which means that you'll pinch a thumbnail if it's in the arm or a toenail if it's in the leg, and see how fast the color returns. So if it's slower on one side versus the other side, you know then there's also a circulation problem. Okay, so after you've checked for circulation, you're then going to put on the splint. So again, the keys with this is you always want to splint it as it lies. You never want to move a suspected fracture. You never want to push bone in, and you never want to pull anything out of an open break, meaning the bone is sticking through the skin. Okay, so to put the splint on, again, you'll take your splinting material. You'll make sure that it's long enough to go past the joints and cover the suspected fractured area. And then you will tie at least 4 ties, 2 below and 2 above the suspected fractured area, and make sure it's completely immobilized to prevent further injury to the person that might have a suspected fracture. Okay. And after you have splinted the fracture, you will then apply swabs. So what these are additional material. So if you're going to move someone, you need to make sure that the arm or leg is completely immobile. All right, so you'll take additional ties or whatever you have available, and you'll want to tie the arm, if it's an arm, to the body to make sure it cannot move. And if it's a leg, usually what you'll do is you'll tie the 2 legs together to immobilize both legs. So if you have to move them, there's no chance of it moving while they're in transit, and to prevent further injury to the person you're treating. So after talking through it, I'm now going to demonstrate the proper way to apply a sling to the arm. So with my demonstrator here, we're going to simulate that we have a suspected fracture in the lower left arm. Okay, so I'm coming up to him. He's in pain. If he's conscious, you can ask him, are you hurt? Do you feel any pain in a certain area? I'm here to help you, and we're going to get you taken care of. Okay, so the first thing we'll do, again, we suspect this, so we don't want to move it. If it's broken, we're going to splint it as it is. All right, and then we'll remove the clothing if possible. Again, if it's in a contaminated area, you won't. So we then have gathered our splinting materials, okay, and then we're going to apply the splint. So in this case, I'm not going to move the suspected area, okay, and my splint is long enough past the joints, above and below. Okay, so then we're going to secure that. All right, and then we're going to apply using the natural bends in the body so we don't move the arm. One above. We'll tie knots to the side. Okay. And one below. Okay, so basically that's your splint. And in this case, we're going to improvise a sling so I can make it immobile because it's an arm. So again, now that it's secure, you can kind of move it. And we're going to use a jacket in this case because that's what I have. You're going to pull it close to the body to make sure it won't slip. And again, just make sure it's tight enough that it makes it immobile. Okay, so that is how you will immobilize a suspected fracture in an injured person. Thank you.